Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Aisle. I'm your host, Nikki Wolf, and today we are talking all things recovery, the standard things you might be thinking of post-athletic performance, but we're going to throw in a few more things that might not come to mind. And as always, one of our favorite returning guests, Shelby Smith, to the show. Thanks so much for joining us,
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, how are you
I'm
doing
doing
this morning?
well. So I live in Utah and we are finally getting some beautiful weather. It's warming up. We have some sunny days. So I'm doing really well. But how are you doing? You are about to pop. You're getting so close.
I know. I'm officially 4 weeks away, and we had Expo West last week. So for those of you that don't know, it's the biggest trade show in the natural supplement industry. And so it's incredible, so much fun, but it's like Disneyland heightened for adults and vitamins, if that makes sense. And so it's very stimulating, tons of fun. We were there from like Tuesday to Saturday. And I think when I came back, I think for most people, you need some recovery time, but man, it hit me. And last night and this morning has been a bit of a roller coaster, physical and emotional. So I appreciate you asking. And if I seem a little off, not every day is going to be amazing and chipper and sunshine and butterflies. So it's one of those days, and we just keep pushing through, and you listen to your body, and you know that it's temporary. It's only, it might be a tough season, but it's only a season.
I love that. And I'm glad you said that because it means your body needs rest and it needs time to recover, which is right in line with today's topic.
I know. We didn't even set that up. That was not planned at all. Well, for those of you who haven't heard a few episodes before, actually there's quite a handful. Shelby has been a guest on the show a few times, and I've introduced her in the past, but would just love to kind of, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Personal, professional. What do you like to do for fun? What do you do within life seasons? We would love to know.
Well, I love being on the podcast, so thanks for having me. This is so fun. If you haven't heard an episode with me before, go check out the one before this. We did do a performance episode talking about things to help during your workout. So today we're going to be focusing on that recovery, but you can go check that one out if you haven't heard that episode or another episode with me. So I'm Shelby Smith. I have worked at Life Seasons for a little over 2 years. I've loved working here. It's really helped me dial in on my passion for health and wellness. I've always been an active person. I love running. I did track in high school. I think I mentioned a little bit ago that I live in Utah, so I love to go hike around in the mountains. I love to go camping. I'm so happy that we're getting into these warmer months because now I can do all of my favorite things. I can go camping, I can go four-wheeling. So I'm really thriving this time of year, but that's a little bit about me.
How fun. And when you say warmer months, like, what is that, like 40
Let's
degrees?
see, it is 36 degrees right now, but it will warm up. It will warm up even more. And compared to the wind chill that we've been having the last few weeks, it feels amazing having the sun. So
Totally, I get it. And it's absolutely beautiful. I've been out visiting her, and it's so stunning where you live. So a good place to take advantage of the outdoors. So, well, thanks for sharing a little bit. Now, today we are going to be chatting recovery. And before we jump into the traditional, after a physical performance, how should we best recover? I think there's some other things that come to mind, whether it's lifestyle, even things like sleep and adrenals. What comes to mind for you, Shelby, when you think of recovery?
Well, I think that when we talk about recovery, it's really important to remember that going into our workout and during the workout, there is a lot of steps that we need to take to have a successful recovery. So first and foremost, stretching. Stretching is one of the biggest things that we can give to ourselves. Excuse me. One of the biggest things we can give to ourselves to assist in recovery. So that's going to be stretching before a workout and after.
Awesome.
I have a bug in my throat.
I know. I hate when that happens, or like the dog bark or something like that in the middle of the podcast. But that's real life.
It's real.
You. Yeah, absolutely. So stretching, and there's, dynamic stretching, there's static stretching. And so it's so important. It's something that I very much do not do enough, but it's so important in order to kind of not just warm
Yeah.
up the body prior to activity, but to cool
Yes.
down the body and make sure, because a lot of times during performance, those muscles are
Yep.
tearing, and it's a good thing, and that's how they rebuild. But it's really important that we make sure that we stretch post exercise to cool down the body and aid in that muscle growth, so that we can grow significantly, smoother, better, and without any
Absolutely.
injuries.
So stretching is definitely something I think that's so important to highlight when we're talking about this. Other things I really just want to dive home on are going to be diet. So making sure that you're getting enough protein and enough carbohydrates, to really fuel yourself, to have enough energy to complete a workout and to help with that recovery. So we'll talk about some ways that we can supplement, maybe some protein or collagen, which is a really important protein for joint health and things like that. We can talk about that a little bit later, but I always say that you can't out supplement a bad diet. So you really need to be thinking about the food that you're eating and getting protein and carbohydrates through quality food. So definitely mentioning that.
I love that you mentioned that, because protein is, I think people in like the fitness industry obviously know that, but I think those that maybe might be new to it or just kind of starting to poke around and start getting moving, they might think they're having enough protein, but really it's not even on the
Yeah.
radar. And protein is, it's the building blocks. It's how we build
Yeah.
that muscle. It's how we recover. And so it's so gosh, we are it is so crucial to make sure that you're consuming adequate
Yep.
amounts of protein. And something that's interesting too, that I don't think a lot of people realize, after a workout, whether it's even a HIIT workout, so like a
Mm-hmm.
high intensity endurance training, or it's more of a strength training, your body is using glucose.
Yes.
So that's the sugar, it's glycogen stored in the body. And what happens is once you work out however long, you deplete all those levels. And so traditionally afterwards, you think, okay, we only need protein. Well, it's actually really important to get a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
carbs post workout, because your body can't process that protein without that little
Yep.
bit of carbs. And when I say little bit, like, we don't want to be
Right.
going for like a huge bowl of spaghetti or something like that. But, and my husband's, he's like a meathead, but he just goes for protein. But it's
Yes.
important to have a little bit of carbs in order to be able to synthesize that protein. And I'm trying to blank. I'm trying to blank. I'm blanking on, I know prior to a workout, you want fat and you want
Mm-hmm.
carbs. After the workout, you want protein and carbs, not
Yes.
fat. Now, obviously if there's a little bit of fat that sneaks in, it's totally, totally fine. But really focusing on the carb and then the
Mm-hmm.
protein after that workout is going to be really
Absolutely.
important.
And of course, everyone's different, and the amount of protein and the amount of carbs that you find works best for you might be different than what works best for someone else. So definitely play around with that and experiment with what is best for your body. But I find that if I have a really high protein meal, I need a little bit of carbs, or I have some digestive upset. So for me, including a little bit of carbs, a little bit of fat with my protein really helps me absorb it and not have digestive upset. So me personally, everyone's different.
Completely agree. And I think two pretty obvious ones, but sometimes we forget about it, is plenty of
Yes.
hydration and
Yes.
electrolytes. And that is something that hit me early today. I don't know if it's a pregnancy thing or I'm dehydrated. I got a Charlie
The
horse,
worst.
and I've
Never?
never gotten one. And I know that, no. And I know that in pregnancy, it's kind of a common thing. So I'm like, is it? And then I had to go do blood work this morning, fasted. So it's been a whole fun morning. And it, I mean, obviously some of you guys have had Charlie horses, but it's like
They're
rotating. Oh my
horrible.
gosh,
I'm
it was
shocked you've never
horrible.
had one before.
I maybe because I'm
Maybe.
always hydrated, but this time, because you're already getting up in the middle of the night to use the restroom so many times, I'm pretty cautious about how much water I drink at night. Well, that
Yep.
dehydration must have just hit in, and making sure you're getting adequate amounts of
Yes.
electrolytes is so crucial. And again, you're putting your body, yes, it's good stress, but the exercise is stress on the
Absolutely.
body. And so if you don't have enough sodium or other forms of electrolytes, you're going to start
Absolutely.
noticing
Because
some
when we work
things.
out, of course, we're working up a sweat. We're sweating out a lot of that hydration and those electrolytes. We're sweating out the potassium. We're sweating out sodium. So we need to refuel ourselves with that, or it's going to result in charley horses. It's going to result in headaches. So if you're somebody who you find that you get headaches after you work out, it's probably because you are dehydrated. So especially if you are going for a pre-workout, pre-workouts tend to have sugar or caffeine that are going to dehydrate your body even more. So if you're a pre-workout fan, you need to be making sure that you're drinking enough water and refueling yourself with electrolytes, potassium, sodium.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Noted.
Nope.
I'll be doing that.
I hope you never get another charley horse.
Um,
They seriously are the worst. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I know. Well, baby also feels like a charley horse in my stomach. So I don't know. There's a give and take. But okay, so we've chatted some like lifestyle things. And before, again, we dive into the traditional inflammation, joints, and pain relief, I wanted to touch upon two things that, again, I don't know if a lot of people talk about, and that's adrenals and sleep. And so we can start with sleep because I think that's, you know, we all know that we need sleep, but do we know how crucial it is connected to recovery? And sleep is the time of the day and night that your body rests, recharge, and recover, repairs, all the R's that you can think of, restores. Yep. That's when all the work is happening. And so if we are not getting adequate, not just amount of sleep, but the deep sleep, the REM sleep, that is when your body is doing that repairing. Absolutely. And so it is so crucial to make sure that we are getting quality.
Absolutely. No, and if you have listened to an episode with me before, I am always talking about sleep and the importance of it. Not only is it important to recovering after a workout, it's important for our digestion, it's important for our cognitive health, it's important for our mood. Sleep is really, I was recently talking to a friend, giving yourself quality sleep is giving yourself a gift. Not only for the next day, not only for the rest of the week, but it is giving yourself a long-term health gift. So I know that life is busy and stressful and there is a lot of things going on and a lot of people would like to sleep more. So I know that that's a lot easier said than done for a lot of people, but making changes to your lifestyle so that you can have quality sleep is a gift to yourself. It is an investment and it is worth it. If you can even get extra 30 minutes, an extra hour, like improving your sleep will improve your life. So I'll hop off my soapbox on that. But if you need help sleeping, I have a wonderful supplement for you. So Life Seasons does have some really great formulas for sleep support, which we can talk about.
Absolutely. And, you know, it made me think, I've had an individual come to me and say, okay, well, I'm trying to get healthier and work out, and I also want to get a good amount of sleep, but the only time is I need to take away from the sleep to fit the workout. Like, is there, you know, which one do I choose? And I think that's a really interesting thing to bring up, and maybe a conversation for another episode of like, how do we figure out where the balance is? And, you know, obviously we'd have to discuss like what the rest of your day looks like. Is there any other way to kind of adjust things before we take from sleep? But if sleep truly is the only thing left to take from, the benefits of what we're going to get from the fitness might not necessarily outweigh the cons of what we're going to get from the lack of sleep. And again, there's so many things to consider. Are you on your phone late at night? Are you having caffeine and you're not falling asleep till way later? Well, let's address that first. But if you're doing all the right things, sometimes taking, you know, or like pausing those extra things that we're trying to do, it's not going to benefit us in the end, but really prioritizing that sleep is the thing that's actually
exactly. And I'm a really big advocate for, okay, you didn't make it to the gym today, but did you move your body? Did you do a stretch? You know, maybe you didn't make it to the gym. That's okay. But did you get a stretch in? Did you get a walk around the block? Like, were you able to get your body moving? Because that's a really good place to start. So if you have to pick and choose between those things, you're going to prioritize what's important to you, and that's totally fine. Some people might prioritize going to the gym over that extra hour of sleep. Some people might prioritize that sleep. I know I would, but really thinking about, did I get my body moving? Did I get to stretch? Did I get to, you know, walk around and actually move? So that's what I would say in response to that.
Yeah, and that's one reason I got so I'm like standing on it, or not, the treadmill desk, or no,
a walking pad.
You know what I'm talking about. Yes, and because it's like those days where I don't feel ready to go to the gym, I know I can walk in, granted, I'm walking at like 1-2 miles per hour, but just it's
Mm-hmm.
moving my body. I'm not completely stagnant. And I'm really nerdy. I don't have it on right now, but I'll wear
Yeah.
like a weighted vest. And, it's like 12 pounds. It's not anything crazy, but it just adds a little bit more while
Yeah.
you're doing the regular things. I mean, you could be using it while you watch TV or, working on the computer. And so just those little bits are going to be helpful. And when you do push your body in, athletic performance, it might make sleep and falling
Yes,
asleep much
exactly.
easier. So really
Exactly.
paying
And that was something
attention.
that I
Yeah.
wanted to touch on too, is if you're someone who, doesn't make it to the gym, you don't find that you're moving your body very much, and you have trouble sleeping, that's a really important place to start. Moving your body, using up those calories, releasing energy is going to help you sleep in the long term. So definitely a good thing to mention.
Absolutely. And then the other component that you may or may not be familiar with is adrenals. So, for those of you who don't know about adrenals, we actually do have an episode. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll link it in the show notes about adrenals and anxiety. And this is one of my favorite conversations, not just because, I faced severe adrenal issues, but it's such a
Yeah.
prevalent issue that maybe people don't even understand. And so, just a really quick brief on adrenals. They're two glands that sit on top of your kidneys. They are responsible for regulating three main functions: your blood pressure, your stress response, and your metabolism. I want you to think of your adrenals as a sponge. So, in order for that sponge to work effective, it needs to be moisturized and lubricated so that it can scrub everything around. Now, different things that might squeeze out that sponge: caffeine, not sleeping enough, overworking, overtraining, undereating,
Mm-hmm.
trauma. Maybe you lost a parent a few years ago. Maybe you're going through a divorce. Maybe you're a single parent. Maybe it's good stressors. Where I'm at right now in life, we're about to have a baby in 4 weeks. We're
Mm-hmm.
moving 2 weeks after. My husband graduates his master's program. Like, it's all good stressors, but it's still
Yep.
squeezing on that sponge. And when you try to clean or, be effective, nothing's happening, especially if you're not relubricating
Mm-hmm.
it with water and soap and nourishing ingredients. And so, I live in LA, and I don't think it's just an LA thing, but if you're not working 3 jobs and a side gig, and you're like intermittent fasting for 20 hours a day, and you're under eating because you have to fit a certain body type, I think that's slightly changing right now, but it's this
Mm-hmm.
go, go, go mentality. Do, do, do. And then we
Yep.
go for caffeine because we're not sleeping the night before. And so all we're doing is just
Yep.
draining out this sponge, and we're not doing anything to restore. And that could be through different supplements, which we'll get into, but silence and solitude and rest, that's what's going to kind of pour the water on that sponge
Absolutely.
and relax. And so, whether you're going through a heavy season, whether you see yourself walking into a heavy season, because again, recovery isn't just athletic performance, it's also so much deeper and so much more. And to be able to recover the
Mm-hmm.
emotional, the mental, components of life that we go through, it's so important to make sure that we're getting that silence and solitude. And I love talking about silence and solitude and
Mm-hmm.
stimulation, because we are constantly bombarded with noise, light, touch, all this stuff. And when are we actually having
Yeah.
no input? And when we do have no input, when we lay in bed at
Yep.
night, we have a panic attack
Yep.
because we're not used to the silence. And so we put the TV on
Yep.
because we needed to distract ourselves. So, talk about a soapbox, I'll jump off. But it's so important to heal and nourish your
Absolutely.
adrenals. So, we have an incredible formula: adrenal tea, B vitamins, and adaptogens. But that's going to be the supplement component, but also
Yes.
that lifestyle: silence, solitude, and
Yes.
decrease your stimulation.
Absolutely.
Shelb,
No,
anything to add on
I
that?
love everything that you said, and I was thinking about how important it is to remember that our emotional health and our physical health are so intertwined. They're not separate categories. They are both factors of our health. And so when we are dealing with stress, it is a part of life. I wish it was easier to avoid, but life is stressful. So we all have stress. We all have input. We all, like you're talking about, we need that solitude. But I know when I'm feeling stressed, it can be hard to even want to go to the gym in the first place, or, get moving my body or things like that. But I also feel like when I'm feeling stressed, I have a harder time performing as well as I want to. personally. So I found that taking adrenal tea or anxiety or, having adaptogens that really help to relax my body, help me to relax and go move my body. So I hope that makes sense, but I love everything that you said.
Completely does. And again, if you feel like that kind of rings true to you, or you feel tired but wired, like you get really frazzled easily, please pause this, go listen to the adrenal episode. I think it'll be encouraging, and I think you'll be running to the
Yes.
store to look for adaptogens or adrenal tea, because I would say 99% of Angelinos need this, 90% of Californians, and probably
Yeah.
90% of the rest of the world really needs an adrenal formula on an
Yes, I
everyday
agree.
basis.
I agree.
So those are kind of the things that I don't think come to mind right away. But let's transition into more of those standard, typical
Mm-hmm.
components of the body. So inflammation, joint support, pain support, and even stem cells, which we can kind of hold on till the end. But what
Well,
would you
let's
like to
talk about
start out with,
inflammation.
Shelby?
You brought that one up, and I think that is a really,
Yes.
really important aspect of recovery, especially whether you're lifting, whether you're doing cardio, really whatever you're doing, you are putting stress on your joints, and you are probably having an inflammatory response to your workout. So it doesn't really matter what form of exercise you're doing. There's probably inflammation happening. Especially as we age, inflammation gets more and more common. Our joints deteriorate a little bit. So this is kind of where we were talking about protein earlier, making sure we're getting enough protein to help rebuild. But when it comes to inflammation, there is a lot of things that we can do to prevent inflammation and have a better inflammation response. So we do have a really great formula. This is one of my favorite Life Seasons formulas. So Inflamex, it's very popular for a reason. People love this one, including me. It's got tart cherry and bromelain and turmeric, a bunch of other ingredients, but those are three that I really love to call out to help the body's response to inflammation.
Absolutely. And inflammation, we generally think that is a bad thing. But again, after a workout, your body's inflamed. And that's just kind of its response to that exercise. So it's not always a bad thing. Now, a lot of cases it is, if, different lifestyle or especially dietary reasons. And so doing an anti-inflammatory support is going to be helpful. But again, after a workout, your body's going to be inflamed. You see redness.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff. It's that eustress, that helpful stress, but aiding the body with ingredients to help support along that. And like you mentioned, tart cherry, bromelain, two of my favorite ingredients in this formula. One is proteolytic enzymes. So think of that as your Pac-Man. It's going to go in the body and eats whatever dead, destroyed, doesn't belong. So it's really helpful, and it's an incredible ingredient. It's ideal to take on an empty stomach, so it's not eating the protein in your chicken Caesar salad, but the proteins in the body that shouldn't necessarily be there. So love the proteolytic enzymes. The turmeric in here, I absolutely love, and we've all heard about turmeric and like its benefits, and it's great for inflammation, but not everybody really notices the significant benefit to turmeric, especially if you either have a high amount of inflammation or chronic pain. And so it's really important to make sure you're getting an adequate form. And you're like listening, well, how do I know what an adequate form is? What does that look like? Potency, whatnot? I'm here to tell you. So a lot of times they take turmeric and they bind it to a certain spice. Any ideas
A lot
what
of
that
times
spice
it's
is,
black
Shelby?
pepper.
Yes. So they bind it to black pepper, and the reason they do this is to help with absorbability of the active ingredient in turmeric called curcumin. So if you're walking in the store and you see curcumin, you see turmeric, they're one of the same. It's just the active ingredient in turmeric. The problem is a lot of people don't respond well to the black pepper. It might even create more inflammation. And so they think, oh, turmeric's not good for me. Let's hold off. It might not be the turmeric, it might be the black pepper. And so what we do is we use a form of turmeric called Mariva, and it's bound to a phospholipid, so fat. And what that's going to do is help our body absorb that active ingredient, the curcumin, without any of the side effects. So if you've ever been to, like a little hipster, I don't even think it's hipster nowadays. I think you could probably get anywhere a golden latte. That's coconut milk mixed with turmeric and some other things in there. And so what's happening is the fat from the coconut milk is helping your body absorb that turmeric, that curcumin inside without
Yes,
any of the side
I love
effects.
how you talk about turmeric, and it's so important to remember that if you have negatively reacted to it in the past, look at the label of the turmeric that you took and see if there's black pepper in it. Chances are that's probably the reason that you reacted negatively to it. And interestingly enough, black pepper can cause inflammation for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. So they kind of counteract each other. So it's great to not have black pepper, even if you don't have a negative reaction to it. It's good to kind of avoid that and just let turmeric do its thing, because there is so much research that shows turmeric is super effective for helping you respond to inflammation. Um,
Completely agree. I used to have a client who she had psoriasis, and she says when I would take turmeric with black
yeah,
pepper, it would make her break out more. And I was like, oh my
yep,
gosh, you're trying to do the
yep.
opposite, and then it's
And you
creating
wouldn't
that
think it
reaction.
would. I mean, I use black pepper in my cooking all the time, so it's not one that you would think about. But if you're dealing with inflammation, try cutting that out. Try switching to a different form of pepper, or making sure that you're not supplementing it, and see if that helps. And as we're talking about inflammation, inflammation can happen all over our body. It doesn't just happen in one particular area. It can happen all over. It's a part of our immune response, so it happens a lot. But a lot of times we're talking about inflammation, especially in this category of recovery. A lot of times we're talking about it in relation to joint health. So if we can kind of switch gears over to joint health. So a lot of times we have inflammation in our joints, especially if you're a lifter or if you're a cycler, a runner, you probably have inflammation in your knees or in your hips. So that's very, very common. But it's important to remember that with inflammation, if we're just attacking inflammation, are we really looking at the whole picture? So rebuilding that lost cartilage as part of our joints, part of a healthy joint, we need to look at rebuilding healthy cartilage as well. So do you have any thoughts on cartilage or healthy joints, Nikki?
Yeah, and before we
Yes.
go into that, I just want to throw out one more
Oh,
thing
yes,
in
please.
regards to Inflamex that I think is phenomenally put in
Oh,
this
yes.
formula. So ginger, obviously going to help with circulation and blood flow, but I wanted to point out three ingredients: hops flower, skullcap, and white willow. So for those of you that don't know, white willow, the base form of that is salicylic acid.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they make aspirin. So these three are pain relieving ingredients that are going to support, whether again it's like a negative inflammation or your body's working out, the muscles are tearing. It's really going to aid in that
Mm-hmm.
recovery process to calm the pain and the inflammation so that you can go on with developing muscle growth and development
I love
without
that.
that additional
I
pain.
love
So I
that.
did
And
want
I
to
love
just
that you mentioned the hops,
mention
and
that.
I got a little bit carried away thinking about joints, but I love that you mentioned the hops, because a lot of people notice that when they take hops, or if you drink hops, there's a lot of ways to consume hops. It's really relaxing. So it's great for after a workout, especially if you're feeling kind of tense. It's really great to kind of help relax and let the body just rest and aid in that recovery.
Completely agree. Absolutely. I'm not a fan of hops, and I think but I know, and
I
at the
know.
trade show, there was
Yeah.
like tons of companies. If you love
Yeah.
the taste of beer, but maybe don't want the effects of it,
Mm-hmm.
but you get that flavor, it's really cool that a
Yeah,
lot of
there was
companies now are
all
coming
sorts
out
of
with that.
hops drinks that were non-alcoholic. Me and one of our coworkers, we
Yeah.
were trying all of them. They were I'm a big hops fan. I love it, and
Oh, fun.
I'm one of those people. It really relaxes me. So without some of the side effects of a
Love that.
beer. So yeah, I love hops.
Awesome. Okay, so coming back to mobility and healthy joints, yes, you think especially long distance runners or any sort of endurance athletes, you are putting so much stress
Mm-hmm.
on those bones, those joints, and
Yeah,
becomes bone on bone, and it starts, pulling away or deteriorating the bone. The synovial fluid, which is lubricating those joints, starts to diminish. The cartilage, which again is lubricating the joints as well, starts to deplete. So it's really important, especially if you're an endurance athlete, or maybe you don't, maybe you're a regular athlete, maybe you're an endurance athlete, but you don't eat an adequate diet that's going to aid in recovery. Making sure you're doing a joint formula is going to
absolutely.
be crucial. And we have some really good call out ingredients in here the glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM, that's going to be really helpful at
Yes.
rebuilding that cartilage, rebuilding that synovial fluid. Again, think of that as the
Yes. And
lubricant for
along
your
with that,
joints.
we also do use chicken collagen. So collagen makes up 80% of the protein in our body. Collagen is so important for healthy joints, for healthy skin, hair, nails. It's really vital. I know collagen is a very hot ingredient. People talk about it a lot, so we don't have to dive too much into it right now. But there is collagen in this formula to help with that assisting. And it's cool because a lot of people do find that when they take mobility to help with their joints, they also see improvements in their skin and in their hair, which is kind of a fun little addition. So.
Oh, totally. That's a win-win right there. We also have turmeric in there, which again is going to, obviously, we know, help with that inflammation. And so it's such a fantastic ingredient or formulation to help with the healthy joint function and reduce that inflammation. Do you have any suggestions? I'm just curious, your input on, let's say somebody comes in and says, I'm, struggling with inflammation. Should I, and I can only take one thing, should I focus on a joint formula, or should I focus on an inflammation formula? And I'm happy to kind of share too, but I'm curious if you have
Yeah, and
any,
that's a great question,
guidance
and
with that.
definitely a question that we get a lot. What I love about mobility is that we are still thinking about inflammation in this formula. So if it really comes down to it, I think the thing to consider is, am I more concerned about inflammation all over my body? Am I getting stress headaches? Am I getting tension headaches that start in my neck? Am I noticing that my face is really puffy in the mornings? Is it an inflammation issue, or are my joints really creaky? Can I move my knee? Oh, I kicked my tripod. But can I move my knee without it creaking and feeling uncomfortable? So I think those are questions to kind of think about. And if you're noticing that the issue is more joint related, I definitely would recommend starting with mobility over Inflamex. But again, really that's going to just depend on what you're looking for and that need. But what's your answer to that?
I love that. Yeah, no, I absolutely love that feedback. And Inflamex
It's
is
great.
my favorite and is my go-to because I think we get inflammation from so many different
Mm-hmm.
areas of the body. And I think Inflamex is a really good formula that's going to happen. People notice
Yes.
the effects very quickly, whereas mobility is going to be more of that long-term support. You're really going to see symptom
Mm-hmm.
reduction the more you continue with this
It's
because
true.
it does take a little while to rebuild that cartilage and that synovial fluid. So if you're looking for, a really quick fix, but also something that you can do on an everyday basis, I would go Inflamex. But if you're noticing that bone on
Mm-hmm.
bone joint pain, really specific to the joints, then I think
Yes.
mobility is your go-to. But we also have an incredible ingredient that kind of leads us into the next one, or not ingredient, a formula, and that's going to be our pain relief formula. So that's going to be for the individuals obviously going through serious pain, whatever they're recovering from. Maybe it's a really intense, like maybe you just did a marathon, or maybe you just, you went through surgery or a severe injury, or
Yeah.
you're having period pain so bad you can't even sleep at night, back pain, nerve pain. We've got a formula for you. And what I love so much about this one is generally when you're looking for something in the natural industry, there's two categories. Or there's two types of people. Okay, I have chronic pain. Turmeric and homeopathics don't do the job.
Yep.
I need something really intense. Well, the side effects of that is you're getting kidney and liver damage, but it takes care of the pain. Whereas, I'll take the homeopathics and turmeric. It's safe on the body, but it doesn't really take care of
Mm-hmm.
that really intense pain. And so what I love so much about this formula is that it's the best of both worlds. It's really helpful for not just acute pain, but chronic pain. And it's not going to be harmful on the kidneys and liver. Before I dive in, I'd love to hear your
So
thoughts on
this
this
formula is called
formulation.
Reliever, and I love this formula. It's very, very popular, and I still think it's underrated because it is a really big game changer for people. We could honestly come back and do another episode just on this one and talk about this all day. There is clinical research behind it. There is on the finished formula as well as each of the individual ingredients. We've heard incredible customer feedback from this one. We hear really great feedback on all of our formulas, of course, and customers who paid their own money will call in and tell us all of these great things that these formulas do. But Reliever, seems to affect people's lives in a really unique way. So if we can do another episode to really talk about that, but I love this formula. It is so well crafted. There is all sorts of stuff in here. So we're approaching it from a nutrient side as well as an herbal blend side. So we've got vitamin D3, B6, and B12, which are all really important for recovery and for healing. If you're low on any of those vitamins, you're not going to heal as quickly as you should. So really approaching that. As well as white willow, which we kind of chatted about just a minute ago. So there's white willow and angelica, which I really love that herbal side in here. But there's all sorts of ingredients that I know you are big fans of. So I'll let you talk about those ones.
Yes. No, I think you opened it up perfectly. And again, coming from the nutrition component, but then also that herbal component. And so one of my favorite ingredients in here, and even before we get to that, one of the reasons why opioids are so addictive is because it takes care of the pain, but also makes you feel really good. So you want to come back to it. We didn't want to just create a pain relieving product. We also wanted that feel good component. So we put in a lot of pain relieving ingredients, but we also add an L-theanine. And L-theanine is an amino acid that's that feel good, kind of like a little bit of a mood booster. That's actually the active ingredient, or one of the active ingredients in green tea is L-theanine. And L-theanine and L-theobromine kind of go hand in hand. Theobromine is found in chocolate. And so again, that's like, besides the sugar, that's a component of the chocolate that is that feel good. And so you're getting that aspect. Now, here's a mouthful. See if you could say this 3 times fast. L-tetrahydropalmitine, or LTHP for short. And what it is it's an alkaloid found in the cordialis plant. And this is going to have that strong pain relieving property, but it will also be slightly sedative. Now, you think about somebody who just broke their back or their foot, somebody who's having severe period pain, any kind of thing. I mean, you're in so much pain at night, you can't even fall asleep. And a lot of people end up going towards these over-the-counter drugs because it's the only thing that relieves that pain so that they can sleep. And so LTHP is phenomenal, not just for that strong pain relief, but also that slightly sedative component to kind of lull you so that you can relax and be able to sleep, to get that recovery and to get that repair that we're talking about. And so LTHP is such a phenomenal ingredient. I will say with this formulation, if you struggle with any sort of pain, please start low and slow. I'm not trying to scare you at all. It's, but this is a strong formula. I've told people, start with one when you're home. You wouldn't go and take, an opioid, like 3 of them on an empty stomach at 7 in the morning while you're at work. You want to make sure you're in the right environment before taking it. Again, it's a natural product. It's sold in natural vitamin stores. So it's not going to be something quite, like an opioid, but we have had a lot of individuals who really feel it quick, especially the sedative component. So we just say start low and slow and then adjust from there. For me, 3 might be the sweet spot because I've figured out where I'm at. And again, that also could change with seasons. So we just say start with 1 when you're home in the evening, kind of winding down, see how your body
responds. And I really just want to reiterate something, just to avoid any confusion or any questions. We're mentioning opioids here. As always, work with your healthcare partner to find the best routine for you. If you are recently undergoing surgery, work with your healthcare partner. But it is really, really important to remember that reliever is absolutely not an opioid. It is a great multi-action relief formula. So it's really supportive of helping reduce pain and helping reduce inflammation, which leads to pain, right? But it is not addictive and it is safe to take every day. So we get a lot of questions on this, and just as the way that we're kind of talking about it, I really just want to make sure that people know this is a safe to take everyday formula, and it is non-addictive. So you can take it, you can stop taking it. You're not going to feel weird when you stop taking it. You're not going to have withdrawal, or you're not going to feel like you want to take it. So just to make sure that we're really, really being clear on that.
Yes, I very much appreciate, and that's why you are such the perfect person to partner with me, because I sometimes forget to mention that, but absolutely could not push on what Shelby said enough. Just because I mentioned that, this is not an opioid. Absolutely talk to your doctor or physician. Figure out a protocol that works best for you. This is a natural formula that is safe to take. It is not an opioid. Just kind of comparing what
Yes, exactly. What we know.
conversations are like. So
And what Nikki's saying is that a lot of times
yes.
this formula makes a lot of people tired. There is a warning on the label that you'll see that it may cause drowsiness. Personally, when I take one of these capsules, I don't feel drowsy, and I know other people have a similar experience. But I have heard of people, kind of not heeding our advice, taking it at work, and having to go take a nap in their car. So the first time you take it, I recommend taking it at home just to see how your body reacts before you take it while you have to work an 8-hour shift. So, just advice.
Completely agree. And sometimes it's like
Yes.
3 capsules they'll take
Yep.
the first time taking it on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
But if you take one, you're going to be fine. So I know I like caution really heavily, but I wouldn't be as scared or
Yes.
intimidated. I
Yeah.
just like to kind of lead into that. So you're not at work and like,
Yeah,
why
don't want to
am
leave
I
anyone
so
surprised,
tired?
but I
So
just don't want to turn this formula into a boogeyman.
exactly.
It's not a scary formula. It's a really, really helpful one.
Yes.
Just one that takes a little bit more planning than
Yes.
some of our other formulas. So, good to mention.
Absolutely. I'm very grateful for you and your feedback in regards to that, to kind of calm it down. It's not a boogeyman. It's something that can be very, very helpful. So any lasting things on Relivar?
One last thing that I want to say, just because we do get a lot of questions on it, is that you do find that there is 75 milligrams of caffeine in this formula. So that can be confusing for some people. They're going to say, wait, how is it going to make me tired when there's 75 milligrams? Well, really, the L-tetrahydropalmitine it does make a lot of people drowsy. So they kind of counteract each other, but why is there caffeine in here in the first place? Caffeine is a vasodilator, which means it's going to widen the blood vessels in our body. And what that's going to do is it's going to help all of these ingredients get into our system faster. So what's cool about Reliever and having that caffeine in there is that it helps the formula and these ingredients get into the system within like 15, 20 minutes. Instead of having to digest it and fully absorb it through our stomach, we digest it so much quicker. So people feel this one within about 15, 20 minutes versus some of our other formulas that don't have caffeine that can take 45 minutes to an hour to really start to feel.
Love that you called that out. And I think about it of like, okay, you have a gallon of CBD and you have a shot of espresso. Yes, you're having the espresso with the caffeine, but this other ingredient so much outweighs the caffeine in there. And like you mentioned, the caffeine is designed to work as that vasodilator. So if you have any sensitivities to caffeine or you're a little nervous, don't be nervous about this. We have plenty of other ingredients that are going to back it up and support, especially that L-theanine really negates the negative effects of caffeine. So don't worry. Try it out. The caffeine is just designed to make the ingredients get into the system quicker. So I love that you mentioned that. All right. Well, last ingredient is going to be our stem cell formula, or last formula, should I say. And stem cells, we've done an episode on this. And, we might have heard about it, but we're not sure what it is. I love my analogies and I love, making it easier to understand. And so an easy way I like to think of stem cells is, let's say, I want you to think of a stem cell as a maintenance worker. So you work at, a vitamin store, and you get to the store at 6 a.m. and, you're a clerk and there's some managers and there's a maintenance worker, and the doors open up. The maintenance worker sees, okay, the toilets are flooded, the ovens are on fire, somebody bashed in the glass, a kid came to all the toothpaste and knocked them down. It's going to take a little while for that maintenance worker to get through all the tasks. And there might even be some tasks that have to be rolled over for the next day, because if there's only one maintenance worker to get all the work done by the end of his shift, he doesn't have time for everything. Now, I want you to think of that maintenance worker the next day. There's 3 other buddies next to him. So there's a total of 4 maintenance workers. They come in, they're able to crank out those tasks. They're able to get them done so quickly and efficiently that now they're like, well, I have 2 hours to kill. Shelby, do you need help in your department? Can I help restock? Can I help you at the deli station? They're able to assist and not just finish all the tasks, the priority tasks, but they're able to get other ones. And so I like to think of stem cells kind of as that maintenance crew in the body. Is if we only have a very small amount of stem cells, you have to prioritize that task. We want to make sure to put out the fire in that, on the oven. We're not going to worry about the toothpaste bottles, the smaller priority tasks. We're going to make sure to tackle the big things. So think of your immune health, keeping you alive. Maybe we're not necessarily worried about reproductive health at that point. And so when you think of, sometimes when you're going under really serious stress, how especially women, you might lose your period because we're not going to put all this extra energy into reproductive health if we're just trying to stay alive. And so when we can add more stem cells, when we can increase that maintenance crew in the body, it's going to help our body work much more efficiently. We're not only able to attack the priority tasks, but we're also going to get to the other tasks like maybe metabolism, hair, skin, and nails, cognitive function, all these additional benefits. And so the more stem cells we have in the body, the better. And one other thing I'd like to mention, stem cells are the only cells in the body that can replicate into any other cell. A heart cell cannot turn into a lung cell. A bone cell cannot turn into a brain cell. Stem cells can turn into any other cell. So whether it's a damaged cell, whether it's, any kind of harm to that cell through regular wear and tear from physical performance, or maybe something else going on in your life, those stem cells are going to help repair those cells, rejuvenate them so that they're able to thrive and function.
I love it. And that is so well said. And that is exactly why stem booster and stem cells are important to talk about when we're talking about recovery. So whether you just had a really good workout or you just experienced an injury, chances are you're going to need that extra support. And I love your analogy because I like thinking about it in that way of if I'm constantly playing catch up and I'm constantly trying to do the bare minimum, then I don't have time to think about those extra steps. But if I have enough stem cells to go, throughout my whole body, work where they need to work, then I can think about those additional things. I can put a display up in the window and I can think about the cosmetic side of things, which a lot of times are the people who are looking for products like this. So you can kind of think about those extra things. I can put that display up in the window. I can, clean out the underneath the shelves that I haven't cleaned in a while, things like that. So I love your analogy.
I love that this display in the window, and you think about they're putting stem cells in topical products, beauty, skincare products.
Yeah,
help,
exactly.
Create more of a youthful glow.
Exactly.
No,
I love it. It's just adding to your analogy. But I will say, and we can dive into these ingredients, but I will say that we hear incredible feedback from people on this formula, especially in the context of, I recently had an injury. And I've talked to so many people who really feel strongly that they healed quicker after taking this formula. So there's some really cool things in here. We've got vitamin D3, we've got spirulina, we have blueberry for those antioxidants, lots of antioxidant ingredients in here. But there's royal jelly, which I love royal jelly. I think royal jelly is so cool. It is such a health food store staple. So if you spend time in health food stores, you probably are familiar with royal jelly, but I love that that is included in here as well. But there's some other ingredients in here too. So we've got seaweed, brown seaweed specifically. We've got green tea and L-carnosine.
It's such a good blend of ingredients. And, some of these ingredients that are combined, there have been clinical tests. I think it was spirulina and possibly blueberry and maybe even vitamin D3 at the levels combined has been able to show significant improvements and restoration in the body in regards to those stem cells. So it can help repair DNA damage, all these free radicals that we are taking in, not just lifestyle. Eating foods and converting that into energy produces free radicals. Everything we do. And so making sure that we can do anything to offset that free radicals is going to be so crucial, so important. So whether you're doing this just for general athletic recovery, or, maybe you've gone through something recently, you're in the hospital, you're recovering from some sort of injury, or, maybe your hair, skin, and nail isn't thriving. Maybe you just had some sunburn damage, whatever that might be. Or even you think about, hair damage of, bleaching and heat treatments, doing a stem cell formula to help repair.
I love that you mentioned sunburns, because that is something that I don't think we talk about enough. We talk about the potential risks of sunburns and how dangerous those can be, but that is major exposure to free radicals. So I love that you mentioned sunburns. You have a sunburn? Try this. Eat some antioxidants.
Awesome. Yes, exactly. And maybe we need to experiment opening this up, putting it
Yes,
in
if
a
it does
little
anything.
lotion,
Mike,
rubbing
Claude,
it on, see
we
if
have to
that
look into that. We
makes a
were actually
difference
talking about
too.
this not too long ago. If we can use some of these products
Yeah.
topically. So that's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's eat
For
them.
now, let's all take them internal. We'll be the guinea pigs and we'll figure out all the stuff. So awesome. Any lasting inputs in just the whole conversation
I
in
think that
regards
the
to
last thing I
recovery?
really want to say on this topic, whether we're talking about mobility and we're talking about our joints, or we're talking about stem booster, and we're talking about stem cells, I think, or sleep, or really any topic really, it's important to remember that a lot of times injuries might happen quickly, but a lot of times these things are like for our example, our joints. Our joints don't just magically deteriorate overnight, right? We may have an injury that makes it happen quicker, but it's a long process. So over time, you've been running for years, you've been cycling for years, you've been aging, you've been living your life, you've been aging. This is deterioration to your joints happening over time, or your stem cells, they're slowly deteriorating over time. So with that in mind, fixing these issues isn't going to be a one capsule, one time, now I'm cured. That's not how supplementation works at all. So I really just like to remind people that giving yourself time to fix the issue that's also been happening over time. So maybe your joints have been deteriorating for months or years, probably. It's going to take some time to really start working again. So be patient with them. Give them at least 30 days to really get into your system. If you do try a Life Seasons product and you order it through Life Seasons directly, we have a money back guarantee on all of our products, so you can try them and see for yourself that they do work. But just a reminder that things don't happen overnight. There's no magic pills. They do take time.
Love it. Thank you so much, Shelby, for always providing your insight and making sure that I stay a little Deshay compliant and not, but you're the best and
Thank
we
you. Thanks
always
for
enjoy
having
having
me.
you on
It's
the
so fun being
show.
here. And
And
as always, if you are inspired to
absolutely.
try these products from the episode, we would love to hear how they go for you. So comment or message us on Instagram. Let us know how these products are going. We love to hear how your experience. Yes.
And let us know that you heard about this.
Yes.
You started to take it from listening to Inside the Aisle. Maybe we can do some
it's a great idea.
like giveaway in the future.
Yeah. Let us know.
If you mention Inside the Aisle. So, well, thank you so much for joining. And until next time, guys, we will chat with